The fog in Oxfordshire has a way of swallowing sound. At dawn, the fields lie silent, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. And at the center of that silence stood Wychwood Hill Manor, a sprawling Victorian house, half devoured by ivy and rumor. When Dr. Harold Winslow bought it in the autumn of 1976, locals whispered that he was a brave man or a fool. The previous owner had vanished decades before, leaving only a broken piano, a bathtub filled with rainwater, and stains that refused to fade. But Harold was not a man who feared stories. He was a man of science, or so he told himself. A respected psychiatrist, he had built his reputation on curing minds others had abandoned. Yet behind the polished smile and academic papers, Harold carried a fascination darker than medicine could explain. He believed madness was not illness, but a doorway, a place between thought and something else, something that could be reached, touched, maybe even controlled. He called it the threshold theory. Eleanor, his quiet wife, followed him into that house like a ghost already half-formed. She spoke little, moved like she was listening to something no one else could hear. Her reflection, some said, was always half a second late. In the cellar, Harold built his private study. Brick walls lined with mirrors, candles and strange symbols etched in chalk. There he began what he called his final phase of research. His subject was Margaret Clay, a middle-aged woman, brought from the asylum after claiming her dead child, spoke to her through mirrors. Harold didn't believe in spirits, but he believed in belief, and he intended to map the borders of insanity through her. The sessions were long, cruel things. He deprived her of sleep, light, and time. He whispered Latin prayers she didn't understand, drew salt circles on the floor, and forced her to stare into her reflection for hours until she screamed her own name wrong. Then one night, the manor's servants heard a crash, a mirror breaking, followed by Harold shouting, "It worked." She's crossed. Margaret Clay was never seen again. 3 days later, Eleanor drowned in the upstairs bathtub. The water was black, though the pipes were clean. Harold was found a week later, sitting in his study, nails torn and bloody from carving symbols into the walls. His final words were scrawled in his own blood. "She's not gone. She knows." 47 years later, the house on Wychwood Hill stood hollow against the mist, its windows dark, its roof sagging like a weary spine. The land had gone quiet around it. Crows didn't rest on its chimneys. Even the wind changed its path when it reached the old iron gate. That was where Sophie Winslow stopped her car one pale morning. She didn't know why she'd chosen that house, only that something in her research had pulled her here. As a documentary journalist, she had always chased strange stories, abandoned asylums, unsolved cases, unspoken tragedies. But this place was different. The air felt aware. Her project was simple on paper, a documentary about unethical psychiatric experiments in post-war England. But in truth, Sophie wanted to uncover a personal mystery. The strange gaps in her family's history, the ancestors no one spoke of, the whispers about the doctor who went mad. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Wallpaper peeled like dead skin. The smell of damp wood clung to her clothes. Each step on the rotted floorboard sounded too loud, as though the silence was listening. On her second night, she found the mirror room, behind a false wall in the cellar, a narrow door leading to a circular chamber lined entirely with tarnished glass. Dust-coated candles lay melted on the floor, their wax fused into shapes that looked disturbingly like hands reaching upward. She turned on her camera. The footage showed her reflection, but it moved a fraction too late. That night, Sophie dreamed of a woman sitting in a chair of light, whispering through burnt lips. He told me I was delusional, but I remember every scream. When she awoke, her camera was still recording. The red light blinked. She played the tape back, her own voice whispering words she'd never said. Sakan. She knows. Every day after that, reality began to tear at its seams. Her phone rang at 3:17 a.m., but no one spoke. Only her own breathing echoed back. The mirrors in the house began to fog from within, even when the air was cold. She thought it was exhaustion, hallucination, Until one night, while editing her footage, Sophie noticed a reflection standing behind her in every frame, a shadow where no one had been. And in the faint audio beneath her voice, a woman sobbing, soft, relieved, vengeful. By the fifth night, Sophie no longer trusted her reflection. It watched her with a patience that felt almost human, almost remembering. Sleep had become impossible. The house whispered when she tried. Floorboards shifted without footsteps. Doors closed in rooms she hadn't entered. And when she called out, the echo came back delayed, as if something in the dark was repeating her words with care. She buried herself in Harold Winslow's journals, the pages brittle, stained with something darker than ink. Between the doctor's frantic notes, she found drawings, circles of salt, blood marks, mirror symbols. Each entry descended further into madness. Yet one line froze her blood completely. As she carries her mother's eyes, the ritual will bring balance. Sophie turned the page, and there it was, a photograph, faded, creased, but unmistakable. A woman standing beside the manor's window, Eleanor Winslow, the same eyes, the same shape of face, the same shape of face. A mirror image of Sophie. Her hands trembled as she kept reading. The truth spilled out between the lines. Margaret Clay had not been a patient. She had been Eleanor's midwife, accused of witchcraft after a stillbirth. Harold's experiments weren't medical at all. They were retribution. He had used Margaret as a vessel for his guilt, twisting her grief into ritual. But something went wrong. Margaret hadn't died. She had become part of the house, sealed within its mirrors, bound by the ritual to every descendant of the Winslow bloodline. That realization hit Sophie like ice. The haunting wasn't random, it was inheritance. The curse wasn't on the house, it was on her. That night, she set up her camera in the mirror room, determined to confront the truth, to prove what was real. She whispered into the lens, "If you're there, show me." The candles flickered, though there was no breeze. Her reflection smiled. Then it moved, slowly, unnaturally, lifting a hand before Sophie did. Her reflection's mouth formed words she didn't speak. "You brought me back." The glass rippled like water. Sophie reached out and the reflection grabbed her wrist. The screen turned to static. When the police found the footage days later, Sophie's voice was still audible, faint and distant. She's not gone. She knows. She knows. In the mirror, her reflection lingered, eyes open, lips curled into something between sorrow and satisfaction, as if the truth itself had finally been freed. The house on Wychwood Hill was sealed again. Police boarded the doors, chained the gates, and declared it condemned. The official report said Sophie Winslow vanished during filming, presumed lost in the structure's collapse. No body, no proof, no trace, but those who handled her equipment still speak of what they found. Her final camera was recovered from the cellar, melted slightly around the lens as if it had been near intense heat. The footage, however, remained intact. It shows Sophie standing before the mirror, whispering something through trembling lips. The image wavers, blurs, and then the reflection moves before she does. Investigators paused the tape there. Frame by frame, they saw her reflection smile. Not a glitch, not a trick of light. It smiled, and then stepped forward. After that, the screen goes white. When technicians tried to enhance the audio, they discovered layers beneath her voice. Faint murmurs that grew clearer when slowed down. One repeated line over and over like a heartbeat. The truth lives where mirrors bleed. No one speaks of Wychwood Hill now. The land has grown wild again, swallowing the paths that once led to the house. Travelers say they sometimes see candlelight flickering behind boarded windows, though the power's been cut for decades. And in the nearby village, a rumor still circles. Every winter solstice, just after midnight, a woman's reflection appears in the old parish well, eyes open, mouth moving in silence. Some claim it's Sophie. Others say it's Margaret Clay, still waiting for her name to be remembered. The Winslow bloodline ended with Sophie, but the reflection didn't, because mirrors are patient. They remember faces, even when the faces forget them. So tonight, if you find yourself alone, if the room feels a little colder than it should, and if your reflection seems just a heartbeat late when you move, tell me, do you think it's really you staring back?